Mark, it seemed a game plan implemented perfectly. What was the assessment?
Yeah, the first half in particular was pretty much everything we spoke around from the review into the preview for this week. Boys executed really, really well. A lot of pressure on the game, and I thought the way that we attacked it from the off, very, very confident in what we wanted to do, very accurate in what we wanted to do, and we were really delighted to get in at half time with the scoreboard looking like it did.
The first quarter was the carbon copy of last week in a way, out of the blocks, but this time you maintained the momentum.
Yeah, and that was a big part of the review, just understanding, well, how did we lose the momentum last week? What did the Scarlets do that shifted that momentum? How did they exploit the momentum? And then, what part did we play in that to stop it? And I think it showed today when we keep 15 guys on the field. That's the true Ospreys, and you can see like it was a representation of the quality of our team today. So just well done to the boys there. I think, without being too negative, because we are through to a quarter final, I was pretty disappointed with the second half. I thought, there was still loads of efforts, loads of energy. We were still up for the scrap battle and the effort battle, but we weren't as accurate around the key areas of our game that we were in the first half, and that's why it got a bit scrappy and it wasn't as flowing. But that's a positive, because it shows that this team's got growth in it, and it shows that there's room to move the ceiling. And we play against Lyon like we are in the next round. You're going to need to go for 80 minutes, because obviously the higher we go, the tougher it gets.
You did rest a few people last week. It's a squad game, obviously, but we saw sort of the impact of some of them that came back in.
Yeah, and as I said before, around last week's selection, it was an opportunity to reward some players that have been training particularly well, working hard in the environment. It's never 15 or 23 that get you through a season. It's always the squad, and it's tough. It's tough. You have guys that are playing well that just can't play. You can only pick 23 guys on a Saturday, and but ultimately my job's there to win rugby matches, and the other coaches are there to win rugby matches, and you have to pick players, and sometimes it's just a gut feeling, and it is tough on those guys that don't play. But we talk around being ready, and we talk around making sure when you do get your opportunity, you take it, and that's what we were doing last week. With this week in mind, we knew there was no second chances of this game. You don't win this game, you don't go through. Whereas with the league, hopefully we've got 4 more games that can, it's still in our hands with those 4 games, and we're going to need those players and the ones that played and ones that didn't in the next 4 rounds, and at least we know we've got people ready now.
I was going to say, it's a juggling act with Judgment Day to come, but you've got another fixture now, but this competition, it's something tangible to win at the end of the season.
Yeah, it is. When you get to the knockout stages, you have to have your eyes on getting to the end, because what's the point in being involved in it? But you've just got to be so careful around, as you said, not looking too far ahead with Judgment Day, with Derby against Cardiff and Dragons. You do have to focus on what is Lyon now, and we've got a short preparation into it, and we'll need to make sure that we're very precise with what we target for this game, and we've got to make sure we load up the energy into the group as well around being able to compete, with what will be a very, very big physical and athletic Lyon team.
And Rhys, we just had Dwayne in here. He said, he just give you plaudits in terms of the physical nature and the fact that they couldn't get a foothold because of that. There was some effort physically today.
Yeah, we talked about it in the week. I said we let them off a bit last week physically, and we think we fronted up today. It was a massive team effort. We got prepped really well with a non-playing group, and they tested us really well. So that's set us up for today, really.
Just a final one from me. Lyon now at home. Brilliant to have the fixture here, but you must think, crack that one. I know, just alluded to what Mark said, not looking ahead, but you must fancy your chances.
A lot can happen in a game of rugby. You got to take it step by step. But no, we're confident. We're excited more than anything. And the group of boys we've got at the moment, like I say, it's really excited to just get stuck in.
Mark, how good was this man to you right today?
Oh, he was incredible. He was awesome actually in the Cardiff game over the New Year when he came back from his injury initial. He's been out a long time, and without sort of embarrassing him as he stood next to me, his physical shape has changed in the injury period. He's always been a big man, he's always had the mentality, he's always had the physicality, but his body shape's changed, and that's down to the work he's put in with the conditioners. Rugby staff get a lot of plaudits around the wins we're getting, but we've got a great medical team and a great conditioning team that nobody sees, and they do an awful lot of good work with these players. And Rhys is the personification of that, really. He's living proof of his work and the work of those individuals. So it's made a massive boost to us today, hasn't it, around the quality and the depth. You bring in a guy like James Fender off the bench who's played so well over the last, not just this season, but other seasons. So having that depth at this stage of the season is so important. And hopefully we've got a few more to come back as well in the not too distant future.
Speaking of guys come back from injury, it seems mad to think that Davies, this was his first start today since mid-December, given he's played Six Nations and stuff like that. But how pleasing was it to get an hour or so out of him?
Yeah, it's very pleasing, and again, without trying to sound too clever, we tried to plan Davies' return back into the squad. Same with Jack, giving them the Connaught week off, and then using him sparingly off the bench last week, Dewi, to get into remembering how we play, our calls, etc. Because you don't just want him in the team; you want him to be comfortable in the team and feeling like they've got the cohesion. And I think he looks like a guy now that's back in Osprey's shirt, clear with what Ospreys are doing. And Dowie's a world-class player. There's no doubt about it. I don't use that term sparingly. There's not many teams can say they've got world-class players, and we've got arguably more than one in this team. So we're very lucky, but we want to get the best out of the players. We don't just want to select them, we want to get the best out of them. And I think by sharing that work, I think we're getting the best out of them.
In terms of injuries, Ruben, Gareth, how are they looking?
Yeah, all good. If I'm honest with you, Rubes went off just with a head knock, just to be checked, and because Luke was doing so well when he was out there, I left him out there. Luke, in fairness to him, I want to give him some credit here publicly. He didn't have his best game last week by his own admission. And to be fair to him, he went away this week, worked really hard at his game, and I thought he was very, very good in the second half. He was pivotal in a couple of tries. I thought he had good energy around his game, his kicks were good. So I thought he showed what a player can do from one week to the next, just with their preparation and how they can adjust their performance in a short space of time. So that allowed us to rest Ruben up, and obviously we get into next week's game with some fit scrum halves now to pick from.
And Gareth, how was he looking? Because he went off.
Again, Gar was carrying a knock from last week, but he was pretty keen to go this week and excited, and we wanted to give him the opportunity. And we just thought when his back was just starting to stiffen up a little bit there, we've got a guy like Garin on the bench. We're going to need all of our players, as I said. We trust our players, and I just thought it's the right opportunity now, with him struggling a little bit, just to freshen it up, but he'll be good to go next week, hopefully.
You mentioned that headache with scrum halves. Pleased with the halfbacks today. Dan Edwards, very good performance as well. Yeah,
look, the halfbacks have been, whichever partnership we've picked, have been very, very good. We've got Ruben and Kieran who have gone really, really well, alternating and sharing workload, and Luke's been waiting in the background there a little bit, and he's had an opportunity today, and he's just said, look, don't forget about me either. So that's what we want from the group. We want people pushing all the time. One injury, one bump, one poor performance, and you might get an opportunity, and you need to be ready. So the 10s, Dan Edwards is playing some really good rugby at the moment, both with and without the ball. He's managing games well, got great energy about him. He didn't train till this Thursday, because he'd had a little bump from Scarlets and we wanted to keep him fresh. So, and then we've got people like Owen Williams sitting in the background there, and he did a great job last week at 12. So we're lucky, touch wood, we've got some decent depth in those positions, and we had Kieran Williams back today, and he wasn't bad either, was he?
You mentioned world-class players. Obviously can be a bit boring sort of asking about Jack week in week out in his performances, but again, very good, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's a good player, isn't he? I think I'd imagine there was a few, I'd imagine he grinding his teeth a little bit when people were commenting perhaps he's not the best 7 in Wales after last week, but I don't think there's any doubt about who the best 7 in Wales is. He's good. Yeah, any team in the world would love to have him, club or country. So he's a great man, he's humble, and the boys love him, and they love him because of the way that he plays the game. He's been big this year, and I think there's more to come from Jack as well over the next 4 or 5 years.
Just quickly, it's 9,000 here today. I mean, you've got another home game next week. What difference does that atmosphere make?
Oh, I think I just said on TV out there, last week down at Park Scarlets as well, there was 9,000-10,000 there. We've had the same year this week. It looks so much better, doesn't it? So much better when you come to the game as a supporter, so much better as a coach to watch the game, the atmosphere for the players on the field. And, I'll be honest with you, it makes a hell of a difference to the playing group, particularly at home when you get that sort of support. So 12,000 would be great next week, if that's all right. If we can do that, that'd be class. If any of the Scarlet supporters want to come down and help us out against the French, that would be awesome. So it's not too far for them to come because they were pretty noisy here today as well. So it was a good atmosphere. Yeah, look, we just want to make sure that we have the best possible environment here, support our players, and try and create that sort of 24th guy or 16th man, or whichever way you want to phrase it up. But yeah, just a big thanks to everyone that turned out today. It's not a perfect time, 5:30 on a Sunday, but fair play, the weather was great and everybody's turned out, and I think they enjoyed themselves.
You reached this stage last year against Gloucester. I think it's fair to say there was a lingering feeling in that quarter-final. You didn't do yourself justice in that match. How much will you play on that? You're back in there a year on.
Yeah, Gloucester were good in fairness on that night, weren't they? They were very good. But we probably did feel like we didn't see the best version of ourselves. And I think that's going to be our challenge this week is, well, okay, what did we learn from that game? What can we do better in our preparation? And actually, what can we do better on the night? I think we explored that back then, but I think we need to remind ourselves a little bit around that, because as you say, you do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. It's the insanity phrase, isn't it? And I think there's some things that we can definitely improve and learn from the last quarter-final that we can definitely implement. But look, we've got a very, very good French team. I think they were sitting 5th or 6th in the league the last time I looked. Very powerful, star-studded lineup. They'll be coming over here with one intent to get themselves into a semi. So we've got to make sure that we prepare well.
And final one, is Kieran Hardy available next week?
Should be, yeah. He was, as I said, it wasn't that he failed anything this week on the back of the game. It was more his medical history that he was suggested to have the 12 days, not the 7. So obviously we following those guidelines. They're put there for a reason, player safety, and we were fortunate with Ruben and Luke. We've got 2 guys there who can step in. So I'll be having a headache when I next Tuesday when I put the team sheet out. I'll be having a few tough conversations probably.